question 3 is basically all about efficiency. How efficient is it? And it gives you new information. So it talks to you about risk-free investment. It tells you about risk-free investment, and it tells you about the market. And we're looking at the capital market line, and you can graph it if you want, but I mean, it's up to you if you want to graph it. But you've got risk-free investment. So risk-free investment, it's telling you that the risk-free investment, the risk equals 0 because it's risk-free, and the return equals 8%. The return on the market is 8. So the return on the market is 18, and the market risk is 4%, 18% and 4%. And we've got 3 portfolios. We've got portfolio A, portfolio B, and portfolio C. This is the returns that they need to be achieving. So if you're looking at this on a graph, and there's a line, and then that line is called the CML line. These returns are on the line, are basically on the line. And we want to know for portfolio A, portfolio B, and portfolio C, whether their returns are on that line. If they're on the line, if they're perfectly on the line, it means they're efficient. And we want to see, an investor wants to know whether each is efficient. So we want to know if they're efficient. If they're on the line, which means that we're going to look at a formula. If we put this information into the formula, we need to be getting these returns. If we get these returns, it means we're on the line, the capital market line. That means we're efficient. But if we're over the line or under the line, that means that we're not efficient. So we're looking at efficiency, and the formula for the efficiency is here, and it's basically RF plus RM minus RF divided by the risk of M and the risk of J. J is basically your portfolio A, portfolio B, portfolio C. Okay, and RF is the return of the risk-free. RF is the return of the risk-free. RM is the return of the market minus the return of the risk-free, divided by the risk of the market times by the risk of portfolio A, portfolio B, portfolio C. We're going to put in, we have to memorize this formula as well. This is another formula we have to memorize. They don't give it to us, I don't think. We have to memorize this formula. We have to use it for portfolio A, portfolio B, portfolio C, and this is about efficiency, to see whether the portfolios are efficient. So first, if we just write the formula. So RF, so that's the return of the risk-free. RF, return of the risk-free, plus RM, return of the market, minus RF, return of the risk-free, divided by the risk of the market, multiplied by the risk of J, and J is the portfolio. So this is basically the only thing that's going to change, because in this question, the first thing they tell us in this question is the return on the risk-free investment is 8%. So we have risk-free investment. So risk-free, we know that the risk equals 0% because it's risk-free, and we know the return, they've given us the return equals 8%. And then we're looking at the market. So now we're looking at the market. So we have the risk, so we've looked at the risk-free, and we need to look at the market. The return on the market is 18, the risk is 4%. So for the market, the risk equals 4%, and the return equals 18%. They've given us this in the question, 18%. And we want to look at efficiency. So we want to look at efficiency, and you can draw it if you want. If we're going to draw this, basically the way you want to draw this is risk-free. So if this is risk, so risk-free, we're looking at 0 risk, and so okay, so let's call it. So this would be risk here. This would be risk, and this would be return. So for the risk-free, we have 0 risk, but we have 4% return. Okay, so we would be like somewhere there. And then for the market, we have risk of 4%, so maybe around here, and the return is 18. So it will be here and then like here, for example. And this is that's the CML line. That's the CML line, the capital market line that they're talking about, graph the capital market line. And the returns that they've given us for portfolio A, portfolio B, portfolio C, they're all supposed to be on these lines. So for example, they're all supposed to be sort of like on these lines. And we're going to look at portfolio A, B, and C, and we want to know, are their returns on the line, or are they under the line, or are they over the line? If they're under the line or over the line, they're not efficient, okay? Because they need to be on the line. They need to be in equilibrium. So if they're under the line, they're not efficient. If they're over the line, they're not efficient. If they're exactly on the line, they're efficient. And that's basically what we're doing for this question. So let's look at portfolio A. Portfolio A, we have expected return of 18, and the risk is 5, okay? So portfolio A, we know that the risk equals 5%. And we need, so with the expected return, we need to get a return of 18%. Okay, so our risk is 5, and we need to get a return of 18%. And we're using this formula. And the thing is, they've given us all the information. So they've given us the return of the risk-free, 8%. They've given us the return of the market, 18%, minus the return of the risk-free, 8%. And then the bottom here, which is risk of the market is 4% here. So let's just write the formula out. So return of the risk-free is 8%. So 8% plus return of the market is 18%. 18% minus the return of the risk-free, 8%. So 18% minus 8%, all divided by the risk of the market. The risk of the market, they've told us, is 4%. So 4% multiplied by the risk of our portfolios. So if we're looking at portfolio A, the risk of portfolio A is going to be 5%. Okay, so we're going to sub this into the calculator and see what we get for our return, for our efficiency, the return of efficiency. So 8%, so 0.08 plus 18%, so 0.18 minus 8%, 0.08 divided by 4%, 0.04, close bracket, multiplied by the risk of our portfolio A. So the portfolio A risk is 5%, we know that. So multiplied by 0.5 equals 20.5. So for portfolio A, it equals 0.205. So the return is 20.5%. But what are they telling us? They're telling us that the expected return is 18%. The expected return is 18%. So if this was on the line, so we need it to be 18%. This is where 18% is, but in actuality it's 20.5. So it's here. So that means that portfolio A is not efficient. Okay? It's not efficient. But it's generating greater returns, which is good. It's generating greater returns, which means that generating greater returns. So that means the price of this portfolio, the price of the portfolio is going to rise, because obviously it's a good portfolio. The price of the portfolio is going to rise. It's going to rise because it's undervalued. Because basically it's giving us a higher return than we need. So the portfolio is good, but is it efficient? It's not efficient because it's not in the equilibrium, because it's not 18%. So the answer is, but it's not efficient. That's the most important thing. It's not efficient. It's not efficient. So that's portfolio A, not efficient. And this whole formula stays the same for portfolio A, portfolio B, portfolio C. The formula stays exactly the same. The value stays the same because the market and the risk doesn't change. The only thing that changes is this bit, the risk of the portfolio. That's the only thing that changes. So let's look at portfolio. So portfolio A is not efficient. Portfolio B. So redo the formula. 8% plus 18% minus 8%, all divided by the risk of the market. The risk of the market we already know is 4%. Multiplied. This time we're going to multiply it by the risk of portfolio B. Portfolio B, we know the risk of portfolio B is 9%. So multiplied by 9%. So put this into the calculator. 0.08 plus 0.18 minus 0.08 divided by 0.04, close bracket, multiplied by 9%, 0.09 equals 30.5. So this equals 0.305, which equals 30.5%. And what is the return that we need? We need to be achieving 30.5%. So this means that portfolio B is efficient. So it is efficient, and it's meeting the expected returns. So it's meeting the expected returns. So that's it. That's it for portfolio B. So portfolio C. Looking at portfolio C, same formula. So the same formula. So 8% plus 18% minus 8% divided by 4% times by, and the risk of portfolio C, is 2%. So times it by 2%. So this is the only value that changes. Everything stays the same. Put it into the calculator for portfolio C. 0.08 plus 0.18 minus 0.8%, 0.08 divided by risk of the market, 0.04, multiplied by the risk of portfolio C, which is 2%, 0.02, equals 0.13. 0.13. So that means the return that we've achieved, return equals 13%, and the expected return is 14%. So we needed to achieve 14%. So we needed 14%, but we're getting actually 13%. On the CML graph, if you plot this on the CML graph, we're supposed to be getting 14, but with portfolio C, we're getting 13%. We're getting 13%, so we're getting under the line. So that means the portfolio, it's overpriced, and it's not efficient. It's overpriced because it's not meeting the returns it needs to be meeting. It's overpriced, it's not efficient, and the returns aren't meeting the necessary returns, the necessary expected returns. So that's it. It's overpriced, it's not efficient, and it's not meeting the returns that we need. This is the CML line graph that we need, and that's it. So yeah, so basically they've given us everything we need in the first two bits. They've told us the return of the risk-free, 8%, zero risk, 8% return. Return on the market, 18%, 4% is the risk of the market. And then these are the risks for the portfolios. This is the returns that we need to be meeting. These are our portfolios. Graph the line if you want. I don't know if you have to graph it. I asked Sir, he said you don't have to graph it. You can just use the formula. Advise the investor if they're efficient or not. And we know that they're efficient. If they meet the returns that we're supposed to. And that's the formula here, RF plus RM minus RF over risk of M times by the risk of J portfolios. So that's it for question C, for question 3 in seminar 7.